Story 1. Wife, F27, cheated on me, M30, early in the relationship. Now she's flaunting it. 5 years ago, my wife cheated on me early in our relationship. I chose to forgive her but asked that, out of respect for our marriage, she remove him from her social circle. She fought me on it, but eventually agreed. Last December, however, she re-added him to her social media. When I confronted her about it, she said, "I'm sorry this makes you feel bad." Then she took a trip back to her hometown for a few days, during which she went completely off the grid. She spent nights at my in-laws' house and came up with some convoluted excuses when I asked what was going on. I didn't buy it, so I confronted her again, and this time, she ended the relationship over text. A couple of days later, she came back home and told me she was moving out. It took her 2 months to actually follow through on that, and I ended up helping her move out. Afterward, I also moved out because I didn't want to stay in our old apartment alone. We haven't filed for divorce yet, but we've been living separately for about 3 weeks. Today, I saw a post on her social media. She's traveling abroad with the same guy she cheated on me with. It felt like she was intentionally showing it to me. To be honest, I feel completely disrespected. I gave her everything during our 5 years of marriage, and this move feels like a slap in the face. Right now, my instinct is to not react at all. Do you think that's the right response? Comment 1. When your cousin tells you she's coming in June, say, "Great. Hope we can catch up while you're in town." What hotel will you be staying at? Comment 2. Send a group text that due to people taking advantage of you, you cannot afford to host anybody. Look at it this way, you need to put your husband and children first. So stiffen that spine and realize you better look out for your actual family, not the moochers you happen to be related to. Comment 3. No is a complete sentence. I would say to cousin, "It will be great to see you." Where are you staying? It is also okay to be a smart dummy. When she says with you, then you tell her that isn't possible at this time. You don't need to offer any other explanation. Comment 4. That just doesn't work for us. Period. We already have plans or guests, whatever. Or NO can be a complete sentence if that doesn't work for you. Comment 5. It's time to block her on all social media. I'm really sorry. This is going to get harder before it gets easier, but it will get easier. Block her, because seeing this stuff will only prolong your pain. Comment 6. You not responding is the only move here. Don't make any social media posts about the breakup. Do not comment or like any posts. She's trying to get your attention and create more drama. Actually, since you're not together anymore, there's no need to be friends on social media. Ignore anything on socials about the breakup. Comment 7. Cheaters have a victim mentality. She's punishing you for being controlling. Just make sure to block her when everything is settled. 5 years is honestly nothing in the grand scheme of things. Comment 8. Perspective is she has no respect for you or the relationship. The problem with giving your all to someone is you have to make sure they are people worthy of getting your all. She clearly was not and is not. Story 2. My 25M fiancé wants his mom to cook for him after we get married. 24F. Does this constitute a rethinking? My boyfriend and I come from different cultural backgrounds. I'm Latina, and he's Middle Eastern. Recently, we were talking about marriage and the things we're excited about as we plan for the future. I mentioned how excited I am to cook him all the traditional Hispanic foods I grew up with, and I also said I'd be happy to learn some of his childhood favorites from his culture, too. But when I shared this, he told me that he wants his culture's food every day. I told him I'd definitely learn how to make his food, but I wouldn't be cooking it every day. I also pointed out that I know he loves Hispanic food, so it's not like we'd be eating it all the time anyway. Then he said that if I'm not going to cook his culture's food every day, he'll just go to his mom's house to eat it or have her cook for him once a week. Honestly, I found this kind of rude and unattractive. I was trying to be sweet by offering to make him some of the foods I grew up with, but it felt like he shut that down completely by saying he didn't want to eat my food that often. It felt especially strange because he's always talked about how much he loves my Latina background, yet here he was saying he doesn't want my food in the mix that much. I'm feeling a little hurt and confused by it, and I don't know if I'm overreacting, but it definitely left me with some bad vibes. Comment 1. Invite your mother over at the same time. I bet she behaves if there's an audience. Comment 2. I saw this today. I hope I get it right. She's such a victim. She carries her own chalk to make the outline. Comment 3. Listen to your gut. I find him very rude and insensitive and insulting and a mama's boy. But more importantly, you found it rude and unattractive. That won't get better. Comment 4. I cannot comprehend this. How do you get engaged to someone and not know this about them beforehand? Comment 5. He's from a culture where the eldest is expected to stay at home and the wife move in with the in-laws. He's never going to accept you or your culture. You're going to have to convert. Not sure why you're looking to adopt a child incapable of looking after themselves, though. Comment 6. He sounds like a man who still needs his mother. I would reconsider this relationship because his mother will always be the #1 woman in his life, not you. This man is telling you exactly how he will act, so don't dismiss it and believe he will magically change once you are married. Story 3. My husband, 29M, and his family disowned his mom, 56F, after her affair. I, 28M, didn't. Now the emotional consequences are taking a toll on my marriage. Need advice. I'm 28M, and I've been with my husband, 29M, for 7 years, married for almost 1. Our relationship has been genuinely wonderful. I love him deeply, and we've built something I'm really proud of. He gets along great with my family, and I've always felt at home with his. I'm especially close with his younger brother and his girlfriend, but the person I've always felt the strongest connection with is his mom. A few years ago, I went through a really tough depressive episode, and she was one of the few people who truly showed up for me. She didn't treat me like her son's partner. She treated me like family, and that meant a lot to me. I'm also close with my father-in-law, but with my mother-in-law, it always felt more like a friendship. Then everything changed. Just after Christmas, my father-in-law sat us all down and told us that my mother-in-law had been having an affair, and it wasn't the first time. He said he tried to make it work, but he couldn't anymore. He was devastated, and it shook the whole family. My husband and his brothers were crushed, and they cut contact with her immediately. She moved out soon after. I understand why. Cheating is a huge betrayal, especially after decades of marriage, and I'm not trying to excuse what she did. But I couldn't shake the fact that during one of the darkest times in my life, she was there for me when no one else was. She showed me kindness when I felt completely alone, and I will always be grateful for that. A few weeks ago, she reached out to me directly. She was behind on rent and didn't know who else to turn to. She sounded desperate and anxious. I helped her out. It wasn't a huge amount, but she was incredibly thankful. She asked if I'd meet her for coffee, and I agreed. When we met, she broke down. She told me that she'd tried reaching out to her sons, but none of them would talk to her. I listened. I didn't try to defend her or explain anything. I just wanted to be there for her, like she once was for me. Later that night, I told my husband about it. He completely lost it. He said I betrayed him and went behind his back, and he left the house. The next day, I tried to explain. I told him I wasn't trying to pick sides. I just acted out of compassion for someone I care about who was in a really tough spot. He didn't say much, just told me not to do it again. When his brothers found out, they were disappointed in me too. They said I crossed a line and should have respected their decision to cut contact with her. Now I feel stuck. I understand why they're upset. I never intended to hurt anyone. I just couldn't turn my back on someone who showed me so much kindness when I needed it most. I wasn't trying to undermine their pain or disregard their feelings. I just acted on compassion. I'm not here to justify what I did. I understand why my husband feels hurt, and I never meant to damage something so important. I acted on instinct and care, but now I'm left wondering how to repair things. I'd really appreciate any advice on how to navigate this. How do I move forward from here? Comment 1. Looking back at your other post and taking it together with this one, I can't help but wonder if your mom set things up so your dad would have the upsetting realization at home that all his stuff was gone. She seems to like to hurt people and creates little scenarios to make sure it happens. I'm sorry you went through this, and I hope with your dad and professional care you will have the space you need for yourself to heal. Comment 2. Hugs. He's a dry drunk with dementia. He's going to be mad at someone at all times. Comment 3. Gosh, that was tough to read. I completely understand why you needed to make arrangements for your father, and I completely understand his reaction, also. Your mom may have made it a bit more difficult for his transition, but might be going through her own guilt/abandonment issues regarding this. This is not a scenario that I would wish on anyone. Comment 4. That sounds really difficult. I can imagine, though, that if my spouse had been declining over years and I was no longer able to care for them and was facing the reality of never being able to live with them again, I might not make all of the best and most rational decisions. People do weird shit when they are grieving. Comment 5. Where you went wrong is not talking to your husband first before meeting your Emil. No matter if your decision was helping her out, no matter what he said, you should have still let him know first how you feel and why. Going behind someone's back and asking sorry later is not how loving relationships works. Comment 6. Probably should have talked to your husband first before going behind his back. I get you wanted to help, but he's your partner who is hurting, and you deceived him just like his mother. Comment 7. The difference between your tough time and her tough time is that yours was brought on by mental illness, depression, and hers is the consequences of her own actions, cheating. I get that you wanted to return the compassion she showed you, but you should let sleeping dogs lie. Comment 8. Imagine the tough spot your husband is in. His mom, one of the people he trusted most in his life, betrayed his family. He is probably pretty messed up about this. Now he needs your support and compassion. And he probably feels like you have turned your back on him when he needs it most. It's understandable that you would have a soft spot for your Emil. She may have been kind to you, but there are consequences for our choices. She's an adult and understood what could happen and decided to have multiple affairs, and her relationships with her family were collateral damage. This was easily avoidable. Your husband is your partner in all things. You vowed to stand by him and support him. Keep your promises. Apologize to him. Show him that he is most important to you. Tell him you will block her and work through this together. One day he may change his mind, but until he comes to this conclusion on his own, you should stand with him and always have each other's backs. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and we will see you in the next video.